What's going on YouTube? So since its launch, the Kia Telluride has really become a household name in the world of family SUVs. And with the next generation yet to be revealed, we wanted to spend an entire week with the current generation to see if this is still a great pick. Well, let's go ahead and find out. Like always, let's start things off with a quick spec dump. So the powertrain situation does not change for the Telluride this year. You continue to have a 3.8-liter naturally aspirated V6 engine on all models. It makes 291 horsepower, is paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and combined fuel economy with all-wheel drive is 20 mpg.
Now, the base price of the Telluride this year is $36,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, this is a 7-day review, so we can't wait to talk about our impressions throughout the week of living with this model. We'll also be discussing things like real-world fuel economy after going through a tank of gas.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood, because a big part of the Telluride's long-lasting appeal has always been the exterior design as well as the luxury on the inside. So for the exterior, obviously this has been a really well-received look because, like I said at the introduction, this really went from a nameplate that didn't exist at all and in the span of just 6 years, a household name. And that's because it has that very bold design. It's very boxy. You certainly have that look up here in the front, especially when you choose a trim like this. So this is the SX Prestige, but it has the X Pro package. That's going to give it a little bit more of a rugged vibe and give you the gloss black finish and badging right through there. Speaking of that, that's also going to give you a little extra ground clearance. We have 8.4 inches of ground clearance. And let's go ahead and talk about the lighting. So we've got very premium full LED lights as standard equipment on all models. You've got the signature amber daytime running light and turn signal indicator through there. These are pretty nice and effective at night. And then down here we also have LED fog lights, which is something a lot of the rivals have been eliminating. Now, as far as the wheels are concerned, you get some choices between 18 inches and 20-inch alloys. We have the 18-inch alloy because the X Pro model gives you that with the kind of dark finish there. More important than that is that this one is the only one that comes with the all-terrain tires for a little bit more capability off-road. Now, as far as cladding is concerned, just a little bit, nothing too boxy or anything like that. And then as far as our mirrors are concerned, you will have power folding on the EX and above, and then all of them will have heating and blind spot monitoring.
Now, at the side of the Telluride, this vehicle comes in at 196.9 inches in length. And as far as some of the design touches, we do have, a lot of blacked out elements for this X Pro model. We also do have the bridge style roof rails up here at the top. And as far as design on that new Telluride, we've seen a couple spy shots. It does look like it's going to be very boxy, kind of like this generation, maybe even more boxy if that's something you're interested in looking at. But as we head around to the rear of the current Telluride, I have to say this vehicle has aged like a fine wine. I think it looks absolutely fantastic here in person despite its age. Now, as far as design touches, we have a spoiler, we have a wiper. All of our branding is going to be blacked out on this version. And then on the sides, you will notice these really cool taillights. They're very distinct looking. They're also going to be LED with a clear finish to them. Very nice looking. However, you do have an incandescent reverse light down here at the bottom. Dropping down to the bottom, you will notice a little bit of gloss black. We also have dual exposed exhaust outlets here on the right side. And as far as your tow rating, it's 5,000 pounds for most models. If you choose the X Pro, it is beefed up to 5,500 pounds. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, I'm happy to tell you that Kia doesn't mess around. You get all of those as standard equipment. That will even include things like adaptive cruise control with highway drive assist. If you choose this SX trim, though, that will additionally include highway drive assist 2.0, which is a little bit more advanced. But guys, we need to talk about the interior and what we've thought about that for the last week. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's head to the cabin. First, here's our Kia key fob. It's the newest version here. You have standard smart entry as well as remote start on all models. Digital key, though, is reserved for your higher end examples. As you walk up to the vehicle, it senses your approach. You'll fold the mirrors outward. Then just grab behind the handle there. That will unlock the door. Now, let's take a look at this interior. As you can see, still has a very luxurious and refined look, even after 6 model years on sale. And before we get into the individual details of how this is aged and how this stacks up against the competition, let's start with the seats as always. So the Telluride begins with a leatherette seat. All your middle trims come with a real leather seat. And then you have the fine Napa leather here on our top end SX Prestige. Really beautiful design to these seats. We've got specific X Pro branding up there, a nice quilted design going throughout. And then Kia is always really good about giving you a lot of color options here on the Telluride. We have the terracotta on this one, but you've got a ton of different choices that are a little bit more bougie than what you expect in the class. The seats themselves on this high-end example also have some additional adjustments. They're 14-way with 4-way lumbar and even a power thigh extension. I have to say they are extremely, extremely comfortable. And of course, we have memory seats over here as well. But let's go ahead and climb on inside. And let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. So over here on our door trim, you have a nice leatherette material with a stitching detail. You have a soft touch plastic along the top and a little bit of a faux wood that's very textured so that it's quite realistic. The upper part of the dashboard here is finished in a soft material with a stitching detail. More of that faux wood runs through here to add a little bit of visual richness to the cabin. And then down here you've got your signature Telluride handlebars, also finished in the same leather as the seats. Let's go ahead and fire it up. And now that we're all fired up here, let's dig into the individual details. We'll start with the gauge cluster. As you can see, we've got the large 12.3-inch full digital gauge cluster. It is reconfigurable, and the design changes when you change things like the drive mode. Now, on this top model, we also have a head-up display. It has a good amount of information inside of it. I particularly like the blind spot monitoring information. And speaking of that, this also has a blind spot camera system. So this is a vehicle you definitely ought to be able to feel confident when changing lanes and not hitting anybody. Now, moving back to the steering wheel, we have the typical Telluride steering wheel. It has not been updated with that latest Kia steering wheel that has the off-center logo. I'm kind of appreciative of that, to be honest. The wheel itself is manual tilt and telescoping across all models, and your upper end examples, of course, get heating. Now, let's go ahead and turn over here and take a look at interior storage next. So I open up the center console here. We just have a nice square shape, nothing crazy going on here, but it is nice and deep. Of course, we've got the donuts inside because we want to check the volume, compare it to the competition. This has on board 20 donuts, so that is a really tremendous amount. Obviously, it's really approaching the top mark that we have, which is 24 donuts. Some of the competition does achieve that, though. Up in front of us, we have our 2 cup holders, a little storage cubby right there, and then underneath of that trim piece, you have a large cubby with a wireless phone charging pad and a couple USB connections. One thing I want to point out is, of course, this has a piano black finish, so just be aware it's definitely a fingerprint magnet and is also could be prone to getting scratches if you have pets or kids that are rough on cars. As far as the shifter is concerned, just a traditional style, pull back for drive, bump over here to the left if you want to shift manually. There's no paddle shifters. And then we go into reverse. Here's our backup camera. Of course, you get a traditional one on your lower end examples. The upper end models have the 360 camera. And by the way, we do talk a little bit more about which specific trim levels get which features in our 2025 main review. This one, we're kind of focusing mostly on impressions. My impression of this backup camera is that it is quite good. You even have the 3D view, which is something more similar with luxury SUVs. Back behind that, you have your electronic parking brake with your brake hold. And then this, of course, is your drive mode controller. As you can see, you've got a few different ones. The default for this model is the comfort mode. Now, as we move up into this region, we've got physical controls for all your main things. So that, of course, stands out nowadays since a lot of models are moving to digital controls in the screen. We've got all of our climate controls with big old knobs, physical buttons here. It's super nice and easy to use. Now this is a 3-zone automatic setup, as you can see, and then underneath of it, that's where you'll find your little toggle here for your 3-stage heated seats. That's on most models, and then your ventilated seats are on the top model. One thing I will say is that we've certainly been testing out the ventilated seats this week. It's super, super hot, and they're not fantastic. They're decent. You can feel it a little bit, but even on the top setting, I kind of expected to feel it a little bit more, especially when I was in thin shorts, and I did not. Now you also have a nice row up there for your physical audio controls and a nice volume knob. This has the Harman Kardon sound system, and we'll go ahead and give it a sample. Overall sound quality of this system is certainly really good. I've enjoyed listening to this audio system. It's better than a lot of the competition, I will say, despite, again, this vehicle's age. So the interior, in a lot of ways, has been aging super gracefully. Now, let's talk about the technology here with our main unit here, our infotainment system. This is something that's not aging quite as well. For whatever reason, I guess in anticipation of the next generation coming out, Kia has chosen not to really upgrade the Telluride's head unit here like they have some of their other models. So this has a little bit of an older version. The main thing that people are going to notice, and that we certainly did not appreciate this week, was just that this still requires a USB connection. There's no wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, so you have to plug in with a USB. That is uncommon these days across the entire auto industry. Nevertheless, it does still have things like built-in navigation and some other nice functions that you get inside of the infotainment system. But like I said, just a little bit out of date for sure compared to the competition. We'd anticipate the next gen will definitely rectify that and probably give you a bigger screen and everything. Now up top here on our top model, we've got the auto dimming mirror and the camera system that cuts out rear obstructions. You have HomeLink universal remotes as well. Nice suede finish to our headliner, super nice. And I'll go ahead and slide back the sunshades. There's 2 of them because we have a rear sunroof on this model, and we also have a front sunroof. And of course, as you can see, the front one opens up.
Now, we've been talking the entire time about how well this Telluride has aged, and the back seat is no exception to that either. You have a lot of space and also a ton of luxury, and we've certainly been enjoying that this week that we've been living with this model. Now, as far as the space figures are concerned, first and foremost...
Just a butterfly, but I don't think it went in front of the
camera. It didn't go in front of the camera.
But...
Now, despite the butterfly's interruption, let's talk about some space figures first and foremost. 42.4 inches of legroom and 40.2 inches of headroom. Guys, that is one of the very largest options in the segment when it comes to rear room, which certainly is a big deal for a lot of families. Now, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason I do that is so I can get a realistic knee room figure for you. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". I'm 5'9". And we are sitting at 9 inches of rear knee room, so that's quite good. Also, my feet can slide up underneath of the seat. The seats do slide forward all the way to be able to touch the front seat. That's very useful. Quick access for things like a child seat. And then they can slide all the way back and recline a ridiculous distance to really maximize your comfort. Now, speaking of these chairs, bench seating is standard on just the LX and EX grades. All the other versions will get the captain's chairs. That does mean your overall seating capacity is going to be 7-passenger instead of 8-passenger. However, you do still have this nice armrest through here. And then let's start talking about some of the features. So up here in the center area, you will notice 2 cup holders. It's actually big enough to fit this gigantic water bottle. We additionally have USB ports in each seat back, as well as a household style outlet and a 12-volt outlet. Now, the other features will be concentrated up here on the roof, so you have your own climate controls through here. You also have some LED interior illumination. Your rear vents come out of the roof, which is actually quite nice because it's very close to your face to cool you down. And then if you turn over to the door trim, you'll find a couple more features. On EX grades and above, you'll have the rear window sunshade, so you don't even have to get the top model for that. Very nicely done door trim with more of the faux wood, leatherette all through there. And then in front of the window, you'll find 2 buttons that are still very rare for the segment. Heated and ventilated seats. That's going to be included on the top SX Prestige grades. We'll get you both of those features. That's really quite nice. Down below, there is also a bit of storage. Let's go ahead and check out the third row as well. In order to get back here, it is really easy. You have this button right here that will tilt the seat back and then slide the seat out of the way. Do be aware the seat back itself does move, though. And then as far as the third row itself, let's hop on back here. We're sitting at about 31 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. Those are honestly pretty good figures. This is not going to be the largest third row you can get in the segment. Things like the Toyota Grand Highlander, Honda Pilot, those will have bigger third rows. But overall, it's definitely pretty comfortable back here. As you can see, with the seat slid all the way back, I don't have any additional knee room, maybe a half an inch of knee room. My feet can slide up underneath of the seat, though, and the thigh support is decent. I wish the seat was maybe raised a little bit further off the floor. We'll see how the new Telluride handles the third row. Now, as far as features are concerned, we have cup holders on both sides. We also have USBs on both sides and vents coming out of the ceiling here, once again mounted in the roof, so it's good to keep you nice and cooled down. One thing worth noting, no heated third row and no power sliding third row, at least in the current version of the Telluride. Now, as far as how this rates on our third row rating scale, it's actually a pretty good third row, so I'm going to say this is fit for the in-laws. Walking up to the tailgate, you get a hands-free power tailgate on EX grades and above. And then let's go ahead and check out the cargo area, see how much space you're going to have. Now, when it comes to this, it's a pretty good area for this vehicle, about 21 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. If we fold them down, which, by the way, it's not a power folding third row. That is still not available on the Telluride, but it is very easy to fold the third row. You're looking at 46 cubic feet behind the second row, and then we can use these convenient buttons over here on the sides to electronically fold the second row down, and then that's going to give you your maximum of 87 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Now, if you're curious as to how that compares to all of the rivals, like I said, there's a ton of rivals in this 3-row midsize segment. We'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, the reason you do that is because we've looked at each of those options in the segment and ranked them in individual categories that might matter more or less to you. Things like overall cargo capacity, third row, technology, interior luxury, safety features, powertrain choices. All of that is detailed for you on our website. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely utilize our tool at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now back to the Telluride, I will have to go kind of push those seats down so I can get our cargo measures. And now that we've got those seats folded down, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. In case you're looking to haul something specific, as far as cargo length, 86 inches is what you can expect behind Drew's 5'8" driving position. From behind the second row of seats with them slid all the way back, 48 inches. From behind the third row of seats, 21 inches. Overall opening, really good, 48 inches wide. And then height is coming in 31 inches of height. Overall load-in height as well, it's going to be 30 inches. And then as far as under the floor, you will have a little bit of underfloor storage, and you also have a spare tire integrated underneath of there. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2025 Kia Telluride. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll get things like our sound level reading, discuss our real-world fuel economy, and our impressions after living with it. But first, we need to start with that hard acceleration.
Alright, and there we are, to 60 miles per hour. So like we said at the spec dump, the powertrain situation not changing for this Telluride. We still have the 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6 engine with 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. It's the only option. So obviously, if you've been following this 3-row segment in the last I guess, 6 model years since this Telluride came out. A lot of things have changed. The big thing is that powertrains have started to switch to 4 cylinders, turbo 4 cylinders instead of V6s. So this is one that still retains the naturally aspirated V6, and with that comes some benefits. The big one is refinement. This is a very smooth and refined powertrain, so even when you floor it, you just get that nice kind of growl, nothing, very harsh sounding, which some of the competition, of course, gets from the 4 cylinders.
Yeah, even upon like a cold start in the mornings, after living with this, it just sounds so refined. It doesn't have any jerkiness to it. Really, really nice powertrain experience, especially on the luxury end. Now, what about some cons? Well, the con would probably namely be the torque figure, because compared to the turbo 4-cylinder rivals, the torque is going to be down quite a substantial amount, and you can feel that when you're out driving on the road. You kind of have to slam it down maybe a little bit harder than you would in some of the competition that has more torque to get you up to speed.
Yeah, definitely if you're going up a hill, it feels perhaps a little underpowered, but it's not too bad, that's for sure. I think a lot about the new Traverse, I think, is a great compare and contrast to this powertrain, because this feels a little less powerful but sounds so much more refined. The Traverse feels more powerful but then also kind of sounds very harsh. So pros and cons, it's kind of up to you with what you think. And of course, for the next generation, we anticipate that you probably are going to be able to still get a V6, but that you'll also get the additional hybrid powertrain on board, which should bring the power figure up if it's going to match what the Palisade has. Now, as far as the other element of the powertrain, we've got an 8-speed automatic, terrific partner to this powertrain or engine. It's very smooth. When you put your foot down, you don't have to wait too long, even in the standard comfort drive mode, to get a downshift and get all the power you need.
Yeah, and as far as how power is routed to the ground, you do, of course, have front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Of course, this fully loaded model comes standard with all-wheel drive with the X Pro package. And as far as the EPA estimated fuel economy, that's sitting at 22 or 20 mpg combined. Those figures are going to be less than the turbo 4-cylinder rivals, and of course there's no hybrid offering, so you certainly will be paying a little bit more at the pump for this Telluride, which leads me into talking about the real-world fuel economy that we've been experiencing this week. So far, we have not quite concluded our full week of testing on this Telluride, but early indications are saying it's going to be a little bit lower than, decently close to the EPA estimate, but it's not going to be very good. So just be aware of that. That's also a con of the V6. But speaking of some other real-world impressions, let's discuss ride quality, because I have to say, this Telluride has nothing but impressed me over the past 6 years, and after living with it this week, I have to say, even more impressed. As you go over a bridge abutments like that, it just absolutely handles it phenomenally. It soaks it up very well, especially on this model with the X Pro package. We have the smaller wheels on the outside, the beefier tires. I think that even improves your ride quality, perhaps even more than the other versions of this vehicle. The seats are incredibly comfortable. I can just imagine this is a car that you would take on multiple hour-long road trips and arrive completely refreshed.
Yeah, definitely. This would eat up a multi-state road trip. There's a little sport mode acceleration, just to show you what that looks like. And we'll go back into the normal mode, though, or the comfort mode, as it's called, for our sound level reading.
Yep, fan speed's on 1. Let's see how quiet it is. Oh yeah, very good. 53.9 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading in the Kia Telluride SX Prestige X Pro. We don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to its numerous rivals. We can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings and see how it compares. And cheers to consistency. Rates among all the other Kia Tellurides that we have ever tested out on our channel. It's not quite the quietest option in the segment. There are a few that are a little quieter. Mazda CX-90, the Grand Highlander Hybrid Max Platinum was slightly quieter, but this is a very, very refined feeling cabin. They've done a lot with the noise insulation. It feels very luxurious in here when it comes to that. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, and believe me, there are a lot of other options that are a lot louder in this segment.
Yeah, and this has all-terrain tires, of course, as we discussed in this version. Despite that, it doesn't really make any road roar that I can pick up on. These are not the most aggressive all-terrains, that's for sure. They're definitely a good mix between giving you a little extra capability and just being nice to live with every day. Now, even though it's of course not a focus of a 3-row family SUV, I'll mention the driving dynamics are pretty good. This is a very well-balanced vehicle in the sense that it's not sloppy, even on a back road. So they've paid attention to keep the body roll under control. The steering, nice and responsive, off-center. Not too heavy in everyday use, though. So, again, just a nice balance.
And let's go ahead and get into our Car Confections Slam Dunk and Airball, which is our favorite and least favorite element about the Telluride. Drew, why don't you kick us off with the Slam Dunk?
The Slam Dunk is just going to be, in general, the aging of this vehicle. We've already mentioned it numerous times. It's 6 model years old at this point, and yet it's still easily one of the best options in the segment, which is quite incredible because there's like 14 or 15 choices
so many options,
in this segment. Yeah. So it's very likely that your vehicle will be passed up by the competition in just a couple years, but this one has held up so remarkably well.
Yeah. On the Airball side of things, what we're going to say is the technology. I think really the biggest deal with this Telluride, and the thing that people will really not appreciate is things like the wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. People have come to expect that. Everything else is so nice, but the tech is a little bit on the older side, and you will notice that. Maybe a few features as well, like the power folding third row, still not being offered on this model. I hope that they certainly will add that for the next generation. And it's a 7-day review, so do we like this Telluride better, the same, or worse after living with it for the full week? Well, I think we're both going to have to say better. And the reason why we say that is because we've experienced this Telluride a ton of times. We've reviewed it so many times on this channel. We've actually never had the chance to live with it for a full week, though. And now that we did live with it for a full week, it really just confirms that this vehicle is more than just a nice interior, more than a nice exterior. It really is a fantastic family 3-row option, and we experienced that this week. Now, as far as pricing, you can see the full lineup of prices on the screen right now. We, of course, have the fully loaded example today. This is the SX Prestige X Pro all-wheel drive 2025 model year. We also do have pretty much every option that you can get on it. There's not very many options. 14-15 destination, we're sitting at $56,240 as tested today. And, kind of speaking about the new version of the Telluride, we do expect that to, of course, have a price increase. So if you're wanting the best value, you might be able to get a better deal and a little bit of a lower price point on the current Telluride. Now, if you're looking to buy a Kia Telluride or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's discuss resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Kia Telluride's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 49.02% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 21.1%. Now, it is worth noting that is right on par with the industry average for all vehicle brands. However, some of the competition, such as Toyota, Honda, Mazda, those will have better resale value percentages.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several trustworthy sources on reliability and combines them in a way that gives you the most holistic picture. In this regard, Kia is rated above the overall industry average for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, also important in that decision would be your warranty. Kia does give you a really good one, a 5-year, 60,000-mile basic warranty, 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. They do not do complimentary maintenance. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the 2025 Kia Telluride. If you enjoyed learning about our 7-day impressions with this model, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family, and you're going to help us to make more videos like this. By subscribing, you show the manufacturers that this video is important to you, so they send us more vehicles for us to live with for a full week. So please do that down below if you haven't already. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.